All right, so I decided to go ahead and do a video here. Welcome YouTube, and we're gonna cover slog. So slog has been in the news a lot lately because it's been out long enough now that people are starting to write blogs about it and write, everything about it. And I was asking my team if they want to consider moving our logging to slog in Go in our API, our platform engineering API that we have. And I don't know anything about slog. I've heard about it for good things. I know it's about. It's generally kind of like log4j without the bugs and stuff like that. I apologize for my lack of front teeth. If you want that story, you're gonna have to go watch the other videos. I'm picking up my police report today, by the way. If you want to stay tuned on that. But I'm just gonna be reading a lot, and I figured I'd do that this kind of learning just interactively. So if you're in here, if you want to join me on Twitch, you can come on in. If you have comments, you want to suggest the things that I missed on YouTube, please do that. This is a regular habit I have of learning things for the first time live, so that I can get feedback from people, and you can like put this on while you're doing your work and maybe catch up, and instead of having to do all of it, or you can listen to it. So I am going to make this audio friendly, and it will be posted in the Golang playlist, which is not featured on the web page right now on the YouTube. So anyway, that's what's going on. So we're going to start by reading this blog that came across my feed the 22nd of August, from Jonathan Amsterdam, structured logging with slog. A new log slog package in Go 1.21 brings structured logging to standard library. Just so you know, it's Go 1.21. We did a full 2.5 hour review of all the changes in Go 1.21. You can go watch that video. Go back and look at that if you want to. And it goes through the same kind of things, just commentary on all of it. So the standard library now has slog. And from what I hear, log/slog is the new normal. So, doing log.Printf and stuff like that, people will still be doing that. But in terms of like including logging into an application, this is the new standard. The standard library is going to use it. I understand there's going to be a lot of restructuring with existing packages, which is really great. I mean, if you worked with any applications that use logging, like Kubernetes, which is heavily, heavily dependent on logging, you can probably answer that question pretty easily for yourself about the value of this. Observability is one of the biggest downsides that people cite when they talk about use of Kubernetes and cloud native and that kind of thing, because they can't see your traceability. And observability is one of the hardest, despite Grafana and all those other great things that are out there, Prometheus. It's still one of the biggest problems, and there has not ever really been a standardization on the log format. And one of the things that, kind of a spoiler alert here, but one of the things that appeals to me the most about the logging with slog is the ability to add key value pairs of your own definition to any log entry. So you can set up your own sort of, tagged system for identifying log entries of a specific kind. That means you can filter through logs really remarkably well. And I got to say, I don't know about the other languages where they stand with regard to logging, other than Java, obviously. But this is a really big thing. So it continues. Structured logs use key value pairs so they can be parsed, filtered, searched, and analyzed quickly and reliably. For servers, logging is an important way for developers to observe the detailed behavior of a system, and often the first place they go for debugging it. Logs, therefore, tend to be voluminous, and the ability to search and filter them is essential. I don't know how much I could overstate that. Go is the undisputed winner in the cloud native development language group. It is, every major cloud native application was written in Go. So, and most minor, side applications were also written in Go. And when you're talking cloud native, you're talking about a server, you're talking about microservices, and the only way to deal with them is through the logs. So this is a really, really big deal. The standard library has the logging package log since Go's initial release over a decade ago. Over time, we've learned the structured logging is important in Go. It is consistently ranked highest in our annual survey of many packages in the ecosystem. Some of these are quite popular. One of the first logging packages, called log.RUS, is used by over 100,000 other packages. Obviously, that's I think that might be the one that's used by Kubernetes. I do not know. Um, with many structured logging packages to choose from, large programs will often end up including one or more than one log package because of their dependencies. The main program might have to configure each of the logging packages differently. Oh, I don't even want to think about that. By including structured logging into the standard library, we can now provide a common framework that all the structured logging can use. Yay, team! Go, go! I am so happy about that. A tour of slog. Here are the simplest programs. Map package main, imported log slog, uh, function main, slog.Info, hello world. So this is going to be the new normal. And you know what? That's actually easier to type than log.Printf. I like that. I like the logging levels particularly, so you can like turn it down and turn it up and stuff like that. As of this writing, oh, thank you for the follow. As of this writing, it prints info hello world. Oh my god, look at how beautiful this is. That's like syslog format. It is. It's syslog format. That means we're going to be able to reuse all the syslogs tools that we've had over the years. The info function prints a message to the info level log and to the default logger, which is used in the case of default logging log package. Same logger you get when you write log.Printf. Okay. That explains why the output looks so similar. Only the info is new. Out of the box, slog and the original log package work together to make it easy to get started. Besides the info, there are functions related to 3 other levels. Debug, warn, and error. Anybody that's done anything with slog over the last 3 decades knows about that. With system log. I imagine that's where the S came from. As well as more general log function that takes the level as an argument. Huh. And slog levels are just integers. So you aren't limited by the 4 named levels. For example, info is warning 4. Info is 0. Warn is 4. If your logging system has a level between those, you can use 2 for that. Unlike with the log package, we can easily add key value pairs to our output. Slog info hello world user, comma, get env user. Oh, damn. Oh, snap. That means that they're taking 2 arguments at a time. But what if we want to add more than that? Oh my god, this is really great. What's that? Yeah. You're watching a program the systems where Kubernetes runs. Yes, exactly. So here we go. We have the output now looks like this. Info hello world user equals JBA. As we mentioned, slog's top level functions use the default logger. We can use explicit. What I want to know is how do I add 2 key value pairs? Do you just keep adding them? Is it one of this like variadic function signature things? I guess it must be. Every top level function corresponds to a method of slogger. The output is the same as before. Initially, slog output goes through the default log.logger, producing the output we've seen above. We can change the output by changing the handler for the logger. slog comes with 2 built-in handlers, a text handler, which emits all log information in form of key value pairs. This program creates a new logger using a text handler and makes it blah, blah, blah. Okay. Now the output looks like this. Level time equals blah, level equals blah message. That means you can make it if you want to change your logs into to JSON, you could. Everything has been turned into a key value pair. For JSON output, install the built-in JSON handler instead, which is already built in. Damn. It has built-in JSON logging by default. All you have to do is change the handler. That is pretty damn cool. Hey, hi. You are not limited to built-in handlers. Anyone can write a handler to input for this, like handler interface. A handler can generate output in a particular format. Blah, blah, blah. The alternative key value syntax is, for attributes that we've been using so far is convenient. Frequently executed log statements. It may be more efficient to use the attribute type and call log attributes method. These work together to minimize memory allocation. There are functions for building ATTRS out of strings, numbers, and other common types. This call to log attributes produces the same thing, but is a lot faster. Slog log attributes, context background. God, I hate context. Slog level info. Slog.string. Oh, this is that good old pass. This is this good old. God, I hate this. It's a really prominent Go idiom, but I absolutely hate it. It's where they pass multiple options as a function. I don't like functional arguments. I don't. There's a lot more slog as the call to the log attribute shows. You can pass a context and log functions exactly the same as trace IDs. You can call logger with. And this is extremely performant and valuable though. So not complaining about it. Attributes can be combined into groups. They can be added more structure. You can control how value appears. We want slog to be fast for large-scale performance gains. We designed the handler. Oh no, we designed the handler interface to provide optimized opportunities. The enabled. This is the hardest part with logging is performance. This is why I'm really glad they did it to the core library. Then you have to have any questions about performance, because obviously they're going to eke out the best possible performance in it. You don't always get that with a third party, right? You're not sure. Growing your own logging is a really bad thing to do because you're not going to get it as well as they could probably do it. The enabled method is called at the very beginning log event. With attributes, with group method, with once rather than each. The preforming can blah blah blah. I'm just skipping here. To inform our performance optimization work, we investigated typical patterns of logging in existing open source projects. We found that over 95% of calls to logging methods pass 5 or fewer attributes. We also categorized the types of attributes, finding that a handful of common types accounted for the majority. We then wrote benchmarks that captured the common cases and used them to guide to see what time went. That the greatest gains came from paying careful attention to memory allocation. All right, so the fact that they even did that benchmarking as a part of the core team project is really, really, good. The design process. The slog package is one of the largest additions to the standard library since Go 1 in 2012. We wanted to take our time to design it right. By April 2022, we had gathered enough data to demonstrate the importance of structural logging in Go. We began looking at how to do it. It never was the goal to replace the existing third-party logging packages. They're good at what they do. We divided our API up into the logger, the handler. Handlers are written or in progress for many common logging packages, including Zap, Logger, and HClog. Wow, it sounds like they've been doing this for a long time. We shared our initial design with the Go team and other developers who had extensive logging experience. We made alterations based on the feedback. By August 2022, we felt we had a workable design. That was last year, 1 full year ago. On August 29th, we made our experimental implementation public and began a GitHub discussion. Thank you for the insight. 2 months about that, out of 300 comments later, we felt we were ready for an actual proposal and accompanied this with a design doc. Proposal issue garnered itself over 800 comments and many, many, many improvements to the API. Here are 2 examples of the API change, both concerning context on context. Thank God. God, I hate it. Originally, the API supported adding loggers to a context. Oh, God, I'm so glad they didn't do that. I am so glad they didn't do that. Many felt that this was a convenient way to plumb a logger easily. No, that's a horrible idea. That is such a horrible idea. Thank God I got shot down. But others felt it was smuggling in an implicit dependency, making the code harder to understand. You think? Oh my God. Thank God they didn't do that. Thank God they didn't do that. This is why I like Go. Because the people that make these decisions about what goes in the standard library take multiple years to decide what to do, and then they put it in. Sometimes context got kind of jammed in there really quickly, by the way. It was horribly designed and forced on everybody. I hate it. The idea that they would have done the same thing and made an implicit dependency, as is cited by the blog here, would have been just a disaster. You do not want to force a dependency on context unless you have to. Ultimately, remove this feature as being too controversial. Yay, 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 yay. Good. I'm so glad they did that. They took it out. We also wrestled with the related question of passing a context to logging method. Hell no! Hell to the no! Trying a number of designs, we initially resisted the standard pattern of passing a context. Good. The stupid ass pattern of passing a context as the first argument is one of the stupidest motherfucking things ever put in the Go language. And I wish if I could take it back, I would. If I could opt out for using context in anything in Go, I would do it tomorrow. I fucking hate them. All right. There, I passed all my F words in one day right there. I fucking hate context. Okay. So the first, it's such a bad design. As the first argument, because we didn't want every logging call to require a context. You think? Good. But ultimately created two sets of logging methods, one with a context and one without. I swear to God, Rob Pike had nothing to do with the adoption of context.context. I don't know that that's true. But I have a feeling he had nothing to do with it. This was one of those things that kind of snuck by him because he has too much. No, he would never let that in the whole language. That's not the kind of thing he would have ever let. And if he did, Tim would have to only one. Okay, one change that we did not can make. Okay, calm down, Rob. One change we did not make concerning the alternative key value syntax for expressing attributes. Info message key 1, value 1, key 1, value 2. All right. That's good. Many felt strongly that this was a bad idea. Why is that a bad idea? They found it hard to read. Oh, a bunch of people wanted functional arguments instead of key value pairs. Thank God they lost. They lost that argument because they're idiots. I'm sorry. I didn't mean that. They're not idiots. They're wonderful people with a differing opinion. Better? Better, right? That is so stupid. I cannot believe people were pushing for this. slog.string. It should be all functional. You know what? It shouldn't be that. You know what? Functional arguments are one of the worst designs patterns to be pushed on the Go community. You know why? Because they can't be persisted. This whole idea of changing out the whole config objects that can be persisted to functional arguments which cannot be persisted is stupid. It's totally stupid. And it takes this idea away. It's like, yeah, it's functional and it's all nice and all, but until you try to persist your arguments, I don't know, maybe you want to save your configuration data into a file. I don't know, like a YAML file. YAML programmers unite, right? Wouldn't it be great if you could just, persist the same configuration data that's going to be passed to your functions and stuff like that into a file? So you can put all that stuff into a file and then load it up and then send it on its way and print it out. You can't do any of that with the functional arguments. Functional key value, functional arguments. They are shit. They're horrible. They should never have been existed. They should never be a thing. You can do all of the same thing with a simple config map and you can accomplish the same things. I absolutely, positively detest functional arguments, and I keep running into them all the time. And all these really smart people like Bill Kennedy, they continue to push this bullshit because they're not operating in the real world where you have to persist configuration data and argument signatures elsewhere. Persistence, the one reason you should never use functional arguments, ever. There's a very rare use case for using functional arguments. Most of the time, they're cute, and you shouldn't do cute things. Why is this hard to understand? You just have to make sure that you count in even numbers. 1, 2, 1, 2. This is absolutely that's super easy to understand. You know what would be even better? If they had an alternate to the comma like Perl does with like x equals greater than. Then you could actually change the comma out and just have it be key value pair, and the syntax would be the same. And another way that Perl rocked. Perl would let you simplify your function signatures by just simply swapping out a comma with an equal sign and a greater than sign because they had equivalent meaning. But by doing that, you could associate two arguments with one another syntactically while you're reading it. But as far as the argument signatures are concerned, it's still the same argument signature. Now, that might be something to propose, but that will never make it in because that would slow compilation time. And you can't slow compilation time in Go. The Go project will not allow that. But we felt that the lighter syntax was important to keep Go easy and fun to use. Where are you? I want to give you a big hug and a kiss with my toothless grin for making the right decision. Where are you? Well, I'm going to remember this person's name because next time I see him at a conference, if ever, I'm going to come up to them, give them a big hug and a kiss. Jonathan, Amsterdam, you and your team made all the right decisions so far, design ways. Rah rah you. You made it simple. You kept it easy. You told those over engineering pieces of shit to shut up and get in line. And you know what? You can call me non politically correct for saying so. I don't give a fuck. I am so glad that somebody had the courage to stand up to those overly self-important people and say we want simple, because that has been the problem with Go since quite kind of like not really involved anymore. All right, I'm done. Keep going. Here we go. I'm just so happy. I am so happy. This is such a beautiful package. That was weird. Okay, so all right, more. I gotta keep going on here. All right, wait. I passed it. Where was I? Oh, I'm so excited. This is so beautiful. It's so well designed. I love it. I love that they asked the community and then they went, you know what, we're going to do the right thing. They really did. They really did. Okay, so wait, where is it? Tour of log. We did that already. I'm so excited. I've lost my place. What else is new? Um, and here we go. Initially, slog's output goes through the detail blah. Okay, we talked about that. Performance. Okay, the design process. Here we go. Here we go. To keep going, easy and fun, especially for new Go programmers. Hey, let's hear it for people who actually care about new Go programmers. This is not Rust, and I am going to pause. There's not going to be a Rust rant here. Try to teach a beginner the Rust syntax. Good luck. It's not that hard. Bullshit. It's not that hard. We also knew that several Go logging packages like Logger, Go Kit Log, and Zap with its squared logger successfully used alternate keys and values, which added a vet check to catch common mistakes. It did not change the design. Very nice. On March 15, 2023, the proposal was accepted, but there were still some minor resolved issues. Over the next few weeks, 10 additional changes were proposed and resolved. By the way, if you still want to know why I don't like Rust, I still stand by all the stuff in my other Rust videos. You can go watch those. Rust is a great language that is pretty much irrelevant. There's no jobs in Rust. There's tons of jobs in Go. The end. If you want to play around with Rust, which does have good opportunities for certain applications, great. But they're very niche, not Go. Go is a much more general purpose cloud native language. I said it's the cloud native standard. There's no debating that. So if you want to learn the most important language of our time, learn Go. If you want to learn the most controversial, edgy, politically motivated language, then learn Rust. By early July, the log slog package implementation was complete, along with the testing slog test package for everything. And on August 8th, Go 1.21, which was earlier this month, it was released. So we can now use it. Big thanks to everyone who participated in the discussion. All right, resources. Documentation for the slog package can be explained here. Wiki pages here. There is another blog here, a comprehensive guide to logging with slog. This was written by BetterStack. I don't know who these people are. This was written 7 days ago. So we're going to actually go look at that. Yeah. Structured logging involves producing log records in a well-defined format, usually JSON. This is usually JSON. No, it does not. I don't want to read anything more this person has to say. No. Structured logging hasn't meant JSON for over 2 decades. It only started meaning JSON in 2003 or so. This person does not know what they're talking about. I don't want to read the rest of it. I'm going to skip it. We'll delve into the world of structured logging with Go. No, I'm not reading this. Not to mention the fact that they're using No. This person does not know what they're talking about. They're documenting the old logging system. Who cares? We don't want that. We want the new one. Log levels. Structure support will go with S. This is one of those cases where the best thing to do is read the effing manual, the fancy manual. You read the blog post from Jonathan Amsterdam, who totally rocked it, nice and succinct, and then says, "Hey, go read the actual docs." I'm not going to go read somebody's interpretation of the actual docs. You should probably do that too. Turn my video off right now and go read them yourself. Make your own decisions. Like most logging frameworks go as slog package, blah, blah, blah. I mean, this isn't showing me anything that I need to see. This is somebody experimenting with the slog package. And I guess that's fine. Oh my god. They're actually choosing to use functional combinations of arguments too, which is so I thought they said they didn't do that. Oh, it's because it's a log attribute. Yeah. They did it. They added wait. This there we go. This isn't great because property misalignment could lead to bad entries created. You may not know about this. Blah blah blah. Balance types are correct. To prevent this, you should use strongly typed contextual attributes as shown below. No, you shouldn't. You are a total idiot. I never want to work with you on your team. You piece of shit, pro-functional person. Ayulush Isaiah, stay the hell away from me. Oh my God, I don't want to read anything more you have to say. Yeah, let's make it overly complicated for no reason. No, no, no. We're not doing that. You should do this instead of knowing how to fucking count. Oh my God. I'm done. You guys didn't want a rant, but you got one. I'm sorry. This person is clueless. I'm going to say so in my blog right now. I'm going to say it right now. I'm sorry you didn't want this, but it's like first impressions of slog and Go. Stay the hell away from this idiotic blog that promotes over engineered functional arguments while simple arguments are the default. Do. Better stack. Of course, it's the more you're likely to hear from somebody, the less you're likely. Warning. This I'll take idiot out. How about that? Is that nicer? So happy with the tough design decisions from the slog team in order to preserve simplicity for beginning Go programmers and all Go programmers over the completely brain dead alternatives. Functional arguments which can never be persisted are one of the stupidest things ever forced on Go programmers by people who don't actually use it. Every time I have to construct an entire package, the only argument for functional arguments is that they're easier to document. That is it. That is literally the only argument. Everything can be accomplished with a very simple function config map, which, by the way, is what Python has done and Perl and everybody, all the other language, Java has done for decades. All right. Just say no. All right. Structure logging with slog. We already read this one, right? Oh, no, this is. I don't want to read this person anymore. There, I caught myself. Let's actually go read the documentation, shall we? That's always a good thing to do. It'll make me a lot less angry. This is, by the way, the reason that I don't officially work in a senior software engineering group anymore. I was employed as a senior software engineer for years at IBM. I wrote some of the, most significant software of my career over there that runs on tens of thousands of computers to this day, and I know how to do it. And I've said this before, so you can like easily kind of dismiss me. I'm not a coder. I am an operations person, kind of a hacker who likes to code. I only code enough to get something out of it. That means if you overly complicate code because you think this is better or that's better or for some other reason, I have spent most of my career in the software development world pushing back against dumbass designs that were overly engineered and unnecessary time and time and time again. There's something about particularly intelligent people that they make code that's hard to read. And then you come up with a method of doing it that's nice and easy to read. And they're like, well, that's for some reason, it's like, because it's simple to understand, it's like less valuable. It's the same reason people use Arch for no reason. And it's the same reason people code in Rust when Go would have totally done the exact same thing just fine. Because there's this sickness in IT that, and I believe a lot of it, I believe like the main host of this sickness is Google. You go look at anything Google's ever done. The thing that takes down most of their big projects that they have to cancel eventually is overly engineered crap. Stuff coming from extremely intelligent people who don't understand that their software and APIs are going to be used by people besides them. And it sucks to be them because, gosh, if you can't understand it, you must not be a really good Go programmer, right? No. No, you want to make whatever you make, whether it's the English language or it's software, you want to make it as simple to use as possible. The more simple a thing is, the more easy the API is, the more intuitive the application is, the more elegant the construction, and the more time it takes to do it. It's actually, there's an old saying out there, and I'm going to end I'll go back. There's an old saying out there, if I'd had more time, I would have written you a shorter email. And the reason is because it takes time to convey meaning in a simpler way. It takes time and thought to do that. It's very easy to put a whole bunch of, in fact, I just spent a week and a half ripping code out of my multi-host SSH client, concurrent SSH client for multiple hosts. And I was like ripping stuff out of it. And then I made it so it could be persisted, so that my configuration variables could be loaded in the initial, and I added an initialization package. And the final code is actually a lot simpler. And it didn't give me pause for a second. So I'm going to be like, I'm going to be delivering this, and someone's going to look at it and goes, that's it? I'm like, yeah. But it took me a long time to get here. I had a lot of overly complicated, versions that worked. And then I factored those back, and I pulled stuff out. It is a lot harder to pull stuff out than it is to put it in. So if you're a coder, just take a moment here. The more don't be proud of complicated code. Complicated algorithm implementation, maybe. But the more that you can take something that's extremely complicated and make it simple. Let me give you an example of this. Golang Go routines versus async await and promises in Rust. Which one is easier for an average person on the street to understand? I guarantee you it's Go routines every time. And that's why they decided to do that. Thank God. Promises is async await, they are understandable, but they take a considerably longer amount of time to understand concurrent programming using those than they do with, you just have like a thread of execution that goes over here. Because you can actually draw a Go routine on a piece of paper and show it to, whoever, right? You can't do that with async await and promises. You can't. And if you ever try to diagram it, it's completely hard to understand. It's not intuitive. Intuitive things do not mean that they are less valuable or that they don't require. I think bottom line, it takes smarter people to write simple code. That's one of the reasons I like Go so much. The people that I like to hang out with and have beer with or whatever, they like Go because it's unsexy. They like it because it's unsexy, right? They're the same. This is the reason Python won over Perl. It's less expressive. Because you don't want people to be showing artistic expression in their language. You want them to be confined. You want them to write things in a simple way. That gets a good segue back into slog. Slog is a confinement that we should probably all consider putting ourselves in because now everybody can use it. All right, so let's actually read the docs. Package slog provides structured logging in which log record message variable level. Okay, we know that. It defines a logger, which provides several methods, such as logger.Info and logger.error for reporting events of interest. Each logger is associated with a handler. We know that. Uh, let's see. An slog.Info. Hello, count 3. All right. Creates a record containing. I don't understand where the arguments are coming that these key value pairs like this are going to be out of sync. People are saying that could be a problem. No, it's not. It's not, especially if you're passing. If you're passing, because the function signature is going to bark at you if you don't have 2. Now, it would be a runtime error, to be fair, so I see that. That's really the only argument for doing the key value pair combos like they've been doing, because this, it's going to bark at you, but it would bark at you at runtime. I see what they're saying. Okay, create a record mechanic call. That's why they added the vet tool, so that you can catch it before compile time. I imagine that the slog.Info stuff, because it's in the standard library, that's going to be going into go vet right away. I bet you anything that goes into go vet, and you'll see it. You'll see it in your IDE or your Vimgo or whatever you're using. You'll be see if you're out of, if the count's off. I bet you they have that. I bet you they have that built into the vetter that will put a little thing next to your if it doesn't work. The info top level function calls input logger.info method, a default method, blah blah blah. All right, we know that already. We just read about it. Slog. You can make your new slog new text handler. If you want control over the output format, okay, you do your own. We got that. Produces the output. So they have a text handler. Text handler output is a sequence of key value pairs. So they have a key value pair sequence. I assume that it quotes the key value pairs, but we don't know that. Let's read this for a second. Text handler key value pair sequences separated by spaces and followed by a new line. Well, what happens if we have values in the string? If a record's time is 0, the time is limited. Otherwise, the key is time in quotes, and the time and the value is blah. Add source. The message is key is message. To modify these attributes, remove the output blah. If a value implements text marshaller, the result of text marshaller is written. Otherwise, the result of SFT sprint is written. Key value pairs are quoted with quote if they continue to code. Huh. I hope that it doesn't overly escape kanji characters and emoji like the JSON reflection API does. That's a horrible thing. It makes anything that's written using that virtually any JSON that's written with it virtually unreadable unnecessarily, because JSON does not require the escaping. So that's something to look at. I definitely want to make sure that if we do the key value pair, I kind of want to test that right now. I have a feeling like if you put an emoji in your logs, that it will escape the emoji as ASCII text, even though it shouldn't need it to. Yeah. So keys and values are quoted with string conversion quote if they contain Unicode space characters, non-printing characters, or quotes or equal signs of their own. Did it say Unicode space characters? Okay, so that answered the first question. So, all right, but I want to read this. Quote returns a double quoted Go string literal. Oh, there's the emoji. All right, good. It did not. Here, I'm going to test this right now. It's got a playground thing. So, give me a second here. Let's go grab a smiley face. Paste. And see what happens. Oh, good deal. Good deal. They did not unnecessarily. We should probably try a kanji character. I'm confident that they don't do that. That makes me very happy. All right, so that's good to know. Back to where we were. slog. Okay, text handler, got it. JSON handler will do JSON. Now, which JSON handler is it using is the question. Is it using the same one as reflection that automatically escapes less than and greater than because they're unsafe, which is absolute BS. It's one of the biggest warts in all of Go. The escaping of angle brackets in JSON marshalling in the reflection API because it's dangerous, which is complete BS because it's only dangerous if it's being rendered to a web page, which it's not 9 times out of 10. And that also forces JSON to escape every single non-ASCII character. It's one of the worst ports in the entire language. You can always transfer. No, you can't. Why does it matter? Because when you're looking at logs as a human being and you're not using some application to dump the logs and filter them for you and show you what it is, like for example, when you're writing JSON output, right, to a file, I don't want my JSON output to have a bunch of escaped kanji characters. And if I'm Chinese, I can't read it. I'm serious. It's like one of the biggest mistakes ever done in the Go language. And it's very short-sighted. It's one of the reasons that people don't like using JSON reflection because it's so broken. People write, there's a million versions of JSON and marshaller that take its place because of that. So this is so the question is whether slog uses what kind of JSON does it use? Is it going to do this stupid escaping of angle brackets unnecessarily and emote characters and kanji characters, or is it going to do the real thing? It says both text handlers just can be configured with handler options. These are options for setting the minimum level. Because the people who say, oh, it doesn't matter, we should be able to escape everything. Okay, why don't you just escape all the ASCII text too then? Why don't we just write a bunch of, hexadecimal? Because we want data in a persistible format that's readable by humans. That's the whole point of JSON. That's the whole point. So why would you overly escape something that's not required by the specification? Some attributes are common to many log calls. For example, you may wish to include a URL to trace identifier. The arguments to with are the same. Key value arguments. Results is a new logger with the same handler as the original. Now, this is a use of pseudo-functional arguments that I'm kind of okay with. I mean, anyway, levels. Levels is an integer. It's a number. It jumps by 4, apparently. So you have like 3 levels in between it for free if you want to. slog, new JSON handler. Handler options level, program level. See, this I find this completely. Here's somebody passing handler options using non-functional arguments, right? And people don't like that because they think it's too verbose. But that is persistible. That could be persisted to a file, and then you just pull it in, and then you just pass it. I mean, I find this interesting because there's also functional arguments elsewhere in this log thing. So if they mix the two, I don't know about that, but I haven't seen it so far. Program level set. Now the program can be blah. Attributes can be. This is the slog source code is going to be a very interesting one to study because it is doing a lot of things that people who write APIs, programmatic APIs, not web APIs, might want to do. It's going to be a good example of when to pass a context, how to avoid using context. It's going to be a good example of passing, variadic functions, variadic function signatures that can include multiple values, whether you pass it as an options argument, which is typical, or you do functional arguments, whatever. I think it's going to be a very fun. People ask me all the time, how should I learn Go? And I'm going to add reading the slog source code to the list of tasks to do to learn Go, because the way that they have implemented this API, I can already tell right now they've used a lot of the common idioms in Go that are not covered by books. And so, that's the kind of thing you would want to read if you want to be a good Go programmer. Now the program can change it. And the fact that they made the right design decisions when it came to simplicity just really warms my heart. So I'm looking forward to reading the source code. Now the program can change its logging level to a single statement. Debug level, okay. Groups. What? Attributes can be collected into groups. Damn. They didn't just add key value pairs. They had key value pairs in groups. Wow. A group has a name that is qualified, has a qualification, depends on blah. Each group to create a use group to create a group. From the name. How does it get rendered when they do that though? Text handler will display this group as blah. Huh. JSON handler will display it as oh wow. Wow. Okay, so wow. That just blew my mind. So they not only do they allow key value pairs, but they allow groups of key value pairs. And if you passing them to the built-in text handler, it prefixes them with dotted notation. So request.method equals get, request.url equals URL. But in JSON, it makes a struct. It makes a JSON object, to be very precise with my language selection. I hate that the word object applies there, but that is what that is called. That is an object, a JSON object, otherwise known as a key value pair, combination, hash, whatever, map, whatever. Use logger with group to qualify logger's output group name. Use logger with group to qualify all of the logger's output with a group name. Oh my God. You can take a logger, you can have one of your loggers, and you can qualify. Oh my gosh. This means people can have multiple loggers. Can they combine loggers? Calling with group on a logger results in a new logger with the same handle as the original, but with all its attributes in that group. Wow. This can help prevent duplicate attribute keys for large systems. That is brilliant. That means that if you have multiple loggers, especially if you can load up the handler up front, you could actually have multiple loggers and then say, hey, I want to add a logger for a particular key value subset. That is so stinking cool. Pass each system, a subsystem. When parse log input, blah, parser. Its keys will be parsed with parser, so even its common key ID will be distinct. Context. Oh, God. Here we go. I hate context. I'm just going to tell you. Some handlers may wish to include information from the context.context. Horrible stuttering name, which I made a request that they not stutter there and do context.c or something like they did with testing.t and .b and all that. And they decided not to because reasons. One example of such information is the identifier for the current span when tracing is enabled. The logger.log and logger.log attributes methods take a context as the first argument. I will never, ever use this, as do their corresponding time. This is one of those cases where they relented and they said, okay, I tell you what, all you context lovers out there, we'll give you something. We'll throw you a bone. I'm not using that ever. As do their corresponding top-level functions. Although the convenience methods on logger, info, and so on, and the corresponding top-level functions do not take a context, the alternatives ending in context do. Oh, God. Are you kidding me? Why would you add a context to a log tool? There's no unraveling here. There's no disabling. There's no turning off, go routines, like taking up memory and all that crap. There's no need for a context at all. Why are they using context here? A context is not a map on steroids. And if you're using it for that, you're a bad person. Tracing. One such example information is the identifier for the current span when tracing is enabled. I don't understand that. Session IDs. You might got me on that one, Malou, but let me think about that one for a second. I cannot for the life of me think of a real world scenario that would need that. I'm sure there's one that exists. I can't think of one that could not be gotten around in a much more simple way. You want to log your trace and span IDs with every log message. Why can't you already do that? You can do that without it. You don't need a context for that. You don't. Why does it? Why? Tell me why a context lets you do tracing outside of what would already be doable by overriding the handler in the logger. Where would you get them from? You would just set them as handler parameters and keys on all the other methods. Some handlers, some log handlers, okay, some may wish to include information from that is available at the call site. Oh, wait. I think I just got one. I think I got one. I got an idea. I think I got one. So, okay, I understand now. I think I understand. So what they're saying is that the log package itself doesn't need a context in order to short circuit or do any of those things that they do, right? What they're saying is that there's something in the context that you want to log. And that is a very real scenario. Okay, I think I got it. I think I got it. What they're saying, because they're not saying we're giving you the ability to disable logging or whatever using context. We're saying that the stuff that you want to log that does that, middleware, for example, all the middleware that uses context, that stuff that's going to pass data through context.context and use it for all the reasons that you actually use context for, that stuff is going to contain data that might need to be logged. And so we're going to allow you to pass the context to this rather than having to massage the context somehow into a another key value pair combination, which would slow everything way down. I mean, if they, I see now, I completely support this. Okay, it took me some time to come to this moment, but I mean, it is a Golang API, but in this case, it's not necessary for logging. It's necessary for passing data efficiently from software that uses context because it's so standardized now, and being able to efficiently pass that same data, which is already in memory, and allow the logger to get to have visibility into that. So that's where tracing comes in. So the tracing, it's not that you're tracing new log entries. It's that you're tracing data that has already been set in memory in a context, and you want to capture that. Okay, I got it. That makes sense. You can have logging without it, and that's why it's an extra. Yeah, so if your middleware uses context, and almost all of it does these days, then you could, if you wanted to log the data from that context, a lot of times you might not want to, right? But if you wanted to log the data from the context, and if somebody's passing valuable data in their context as a key value pair instead of using context for what they're for, by the way, let me remind everybody that the context.context site itself says that it is an anti-pattern to pass data in a context. Okay? People do it all the time. They do it all the time. They use context as a lame map when they should have set up some other way to transfer data, and they keep filling context up with data, and they use it as like a pseudo mini database inside. It's like one of the worst things that's ever happened to the language. It's been so fucking abused, and I hate it. I absolutely hate it. People, oh, hey, look, I got a map that goes through all of my applications. Awesome. I'm just going to keep, it's like my little miniature Redis inside of my app. And so they keep putting more and more data into the context. Oh yeah, let's just keep making this context bigger and bigger. And by the way, every time they have to do that, they have to redefine it because it's ephemeral or whatever, immutable. So they have to make a new one. And it's global state, exactly. It's global state all over again. Oh yeah, let's not use globals. Let's just stuff everything in context. It happens all the time. And if you're doing that, you're a bad person. Stop it. Dude, I'm telling you, coders will get away with what they can. And They will. You know what? I'm going to start making a wall of shame where, of all the times people use the context as a mini Redis instead of actually figuring out a way to pass the data in any of another dozen other ways that would have been more efficient. And because of this, because people do that, then the log team had to say, you know what? We got to let people look at their context. They're not going to be able to access their Redis database to get their traceability. So, let's use actual memory to pass our useless data that most of the stuff does not need to know about. It is recommended to pass the context to an output method if one is available. Okay, attributes and values. Okay, I'm moving on now. An attribute is a key value pair. Oh, I was afraid of this. So this means they're doing type switching, which kind of scares me actually. Why are they doing type? Please don't do type switching. They are. They're doing type switching, aren't they? Yeah. Oh my God. Please, why did you do this? They added functional parameters as well as this. That means that there's some kind of type switch they put in there. For every single call to slog, we have to go through a type switch. That was a bad idea. That is a bad idea. This is going to impact performance on every single thing that uses it just for a stupid ass type switch. It's completely unnecessary. Oh my God. Did they use a generic? Did they use generics? Maybe they use generics. Maybe I'm jumping the gun here. If they use generics, we're good. I don't think they did. I think they did a type switch. I think they did a type switch. Yep. Yeah. That's if they didn't use a generic here, the only reason to use a functional argument is because some stupid engineer told you that you should do that because it's the right way because somebody's going to forget to put an extra parameter here. Totally stupid. I will never use this. This is totally stupid. And that blog that recommends we do it, don't read it. Dude, if you use functional parameters and you're on my team, I will quit and go work someplace else. They are so horrible. I hate them. They're not persistent. They're unnecessary. They don't belong in Go at all. They belong in Haskell and Erlang and Lisp. Okay, fine. I know and Kennedy keeps pushing these on everybody. Every time he goes to do enterprise training, he keeps saying, hey, that's the way you're supposed to do them. They're the best way. And I'm like, no, they're not. They suck. Okay. Behave. Use a config map like Kubernetes. Thank God. Thank God Kubernetes chose to do that. There's a lot of mistakes they made at Kubernetes, but that is not one of them. Can you imagine trying to take all of those Kubernetes objects and turn any portion of those into functional parameters? I don't even want to think about it. Not to mention it's unnecessary indirection because now we have to call a function just to get the value. Totally stupid. I mean, it's really stupid to do that. It's really stupid. Why do we have to call a function to get data that's already stored in memory? I don't want an extra indirection to call a function just because you're too lame to pass a config map. It's totally stupid. Completely stupid. It's just whatever. All right. So apparently they support it. There are convenience constructors for such as int, string, and bool. Blah 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 blah. I mean, maybe because they want you to be able to set up your own, and then you can do type. Then you can assure that the type is what you want in the function. But that if you do that, oh my God, you slow everything down so much. The value part of an attribute is called a value. Like an any, a value can hold a Go. It's not an any. Don't be mistaken. A value can hold any Go value. For the most efficient log output, use log or log attributes. It is similar to log or log, but accepts only attributes not alternative key values, not alternating key value pairs. Oh, I see what they're saying there. God, I hate admitting this. I am duty bound to admit that they're right on that. The functional indirection is still going to be less than it's going to be to allocate this key value pair to some other thing, and then save that. Yeah, you know why? Because they can return the value. They can return the value and do the parsing on its own already. Yep. I don't like it, but that's more efficient. Yeah. I don't know about the grouping, but yeah. Yeah, I don't like that this is true. It is similar to log, but it allows only the reason for this is because the simpler thing to read, the key value combos like that, those are not going to be as efficient because they do have to be allocated. They have to be they get passed in, they're not already in the form of the type that's going to be saved out someplace else, right? As an any, I'm guessing. And so they have to there's internally we got to look at the code here, but I bet you the code here has to create an any or whatever and do that allocation. And over here, these functions return that thing already. They already return that type. That's why people argue for doing this. People argue for doing this too because it also does type checking, right? Why would you have an A, B, C, D? Nobody would ever do that. That's a ridiculous example. Yeah. 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 It's not passing the function to execute later. It already is the function. Right. Yeah. Yep. You're right. Yeah. That's why it's more efficient. Yeah. I don't like admitting it. I'm going to have to admit something about functional arguments. They're faster because this is going to be. I mean, it depends on what here is here. It's still going to be runtime evaluation. It's just going to be earlier runtime evaluation. The function's not gonna be, it's gonna be evaluated before the function call. And the returning value is going to have a type. That's the important part, is the returning value is gonna have a type. But how is that different than that? We need to look at the code there. Yeah, we need to look at the code there. I do like that they supported this simpler one. But because this is a logging engine, I'm just gonna tell you, you can yell at me for flip-flopping all you want, but because this is a logging engine, the biggest fear I have with logging, I have been around the block long enough to see log libraries slow everything down. And my biggest fear with slog is that people are going to put a lot of extra logging code in their source code. They probably will. And that is going to at least 20%. I wonder how much. I'm 10 to 20% hit in performance just to enable logging. Because all you're going to be doing, I mean, anybody who's done any operations at all, once you turn, I don't know, nobody even turns Unix auditing on anymore because it slows the whole system down. You just turn SAR on, which is an old technology, but turn SAR on and it slows your whole system down. You have to decide whether the performance data that you're looking at is being impacted by the performance tool. So one of the dangers of slog, and this is one of the reasons that I'm evaluating my position on functional arguments, because when you start adding, you're already going to be adding anywhere from 2 to 10% impact on your performance. Most of it's going to be IO bound, and there's a million other things. It's not going to be really high CPU. But I mean, the services that we're talking about right here, they're already dealing with that but with concurrency and stuff. So they're probably not going to be impacted performance wise. But my point is that when you're looking at something that's going to already add a tremendous amount of overhead to your entire code base because of all the functional if statements, like, hey, what's your logging level? Is it info? If it is info, then log this. If it's not info, then don't log it. I mean, the great thing about it's a standard print that you can just comment out if you don't need it, is that it doesn't delay your code at all. So if using these key value easy to read pairs here is simpler for beginners, I mean, that's fine. But if you're dealing with a super large production code base that has literally thousands of lines of slog in there, then I have to admit I would be pushing for functional arguments just for the performance gain. Noisy logs, I know. Well, this should address the noisy logs problem because you can turn the logs up or down. What slug? Yeah. So I think that that's going to be the thing. Unfortunately, that means let's say you have a 10,000 line code base and you add logging every 100th line or so. So you're going to have a lot of lines. You're going to have a lot of log lines, and every one of those log line calls is going to at least do an if statement to see whether you're at the right log level, right? I wonder if log levels are hard coded at the beginning. They can't be. There's no way they can be. No, they got to make it so it's a runtime dynamic thing. I'm wondering if there's some way they could have combined it with generics or some way so that you could have had the log level hard coded into your. That wouldn't make any sense though. That would make sense for developers, but it wouldn't make any sense for end users. End users want to change. They want to take a single binary and they want to change the configuration file and have the logging go up. And that means it's all runtime, which means you're going to take that runtime performance hit just to do all the if statements. And there's going to be a lot. There's going to be a lot of effective if statements that are going to be like, what's my log level? Should I be logging or not? That cannot be done efficiently. If you're adding that level of logging to your application, you need to be really careful that your application is already bound by I/O or some other thing that's keeping your application slow. Slower than the logging would make it. There's absolutely no way you would add this kind of logging to anything that has a performance demand. But this is not who this package is for. This package is for microservices that are already waiting on I/O all day, every day, and persistence, and even protobuf. They're waiting around. These applications are waiting around for other things. So adding a little bit of logging overhead is not going to affect them. And by the way, if they were to be affected by that, they could just spin off another child and then another go routine or another whatever your middleware is. Here's three binaries with three log levels hard set. Yeah. Do you like the three binaries? I like that idea. Wet slugs. I can't believe you actually like that. When I suggest things like that, people think I lost my mind. I've never found logging to be a bottleneck because you're dealing with Kubernetes. That's what I'm trying to tell you. I'm going to show us more trolling. Yeah. I look. It's this. I'm going to openly admit this is from me being an old timer. Back in the old days, that kind of performance it was not acceptable. But we're talking about 2023. We're talking about statically linking for the hell of it. We're talking about dropping null terminated strings. By the way, in 2023, if you're using null terminated strings, it's probably because your code base uses that. Nobody uses that anymore. They use structs that tell how long the string is. So, and that's a huge waste to somebody from old school. So I'm still fighting against some of that. You're right. There's no way that would ever slow anything down. The value add of dynamically set log leveling is worth it. And to that end, no, not in Go. See, yeah, I just saw a guy talking about that the other day, and I was like, oh my god, a low level C programmer, regular. He's like an educator. He was like, he worked with a bunch of C code bases. He got, yeah, nobody uses null terminated strings in modern C anymore. I mean, they do, but not usually. It's like that's an old school thing. People make complaints about it. That really kind of took me off guard. I was like, the whole null terminated string in C is finally dead. Oh my god. The only reason they did it was memory. So anyway, because storing an extra number, an entire number, just for the length of the string is really considered wasteful in old school terms. That's a lot of wasted bits, right? But not in modern Go. I mean in modern C. Babe's the same as slog.Info. So based on that, I'm going to revise my position on functional over easy to read. Because if we truly don't care about performance, then we care about code simplicity. And you know, I guess I'm kind of on the fence with this. If you want to do this fine, um, I can't think. My whole argument for persistable configuration arguments kind of falls on its face here because there's no way you would ever be reading the information getting written to a log from a single configuration file. So persistence is not relevant. So in this particular case, I'm going to backpedal on this a little bit. I'm going to say functional arguments are fine. I still think they're a pain in the ass and they're hard to read. Um, but I could be convinced to use that because they are slightly more performant. They're not that much harder to read. They do allow you to define your own types. They give you type checking at compile time, which this does not. That will only do it at runtime. This will do it at compile time. And stuff. So this lets you be lazy. I think this one just lets you be lazy, but I don't know. I think this means. I think what you mean is simple and clear. This is no. It depends on your type too. Anyway, there's convenience constructor. The value of any, but the argument for persistable configuration maps is completely irrelevant in this case because you'd never have that would never be persistable of any kind. You'd never have that. Other things maybe so. A value part of let's see, a value part of an attribute is a type called value. Blah blah blah. Well, sufficient log output use log attributes. All right. Is similar to logger but accepts only attributes. Oh, so they did do that. Look at that. They did. They got rid of the type check. Yeah. Okay. This allows it to avoid allocation. Huh. This is going to be very interesting because huge code bases are going to have to implement one or the other. They're not going to be able to do both. I don't think they can combine loggers in the same application. This is going to be interesting because this means that projects are going to have to pick which logger to use up front. The whole benefit, the whole value add of slog is that there's one logger to rule them all, and now they're telling us that there's actually two loggers in the one logger to rule them all, and that projects are going to implement one or the other, and they're going to pick sides. Yeah. I mean, is it true? Am I wrong saying that a project is likely going to want to pick one logger for the whole project? And that project is probably going to have dependencies on other projects that use a different logger. Same interface? Oh, God, I hope so. That's a good question. What is the interface? That's a good question. Oh my God. Log attributes does take a context. They decided to that's gonna win. I hate to say it. Wait, log takes context too. Args any yeah okay they have the same interface yeah they do. Log attributes. Log attributes is a more efficient version of log accepts only attributes. Yeah okay I see. That's the implementation of the interface. No, but it really isn't because it's got a different function name. It has the same signature, but it's a different function name. I'm confused. I I don't feel I don't, we can't no. The delegation to the logger is I wonder if it's a function type. I wonder if they have a function type in there, you know? There could be constructors for attributes int blah blah blah. Function any. Oh wow, they got a lot of them. They got floats and everything. Okay. Yeah, it has the same function signature, but it's not the same interface. So what I'm thinking is internally, I'm guessing, but I don't know. I'm just looking here. I'm thinking that I hate functional arguments. I just do. I still hate them. Doesn't matter. They are more efficient though. Okay. Um. It's like default.info. Wrapping output methods. What the hell? The logger function uses reflection to find the file name and the line number of the login with the application. Are you fucking kidding me? They're adding reflection too? Oh, damn. That's how Kubernetes gets the, in the Kubernetes log output, you get the something.go line, and you can go look at the source code. I always tell people, if you want to get into Kubernetes operations and cloud native, you need to learn Go just so you can read the source code of the errors, and you can go right to the source code of the application and see what that error that was reported, because it will tell you what file and on what line number. And as long as you have that right version, you can go actually read exactly what's going on in the code if you want to know what your application is doing, because it's not documented. And there's a lot of stuff in cloud native that is not documented. So learn Go. The logger function is using reflection. The fact that the logger is using reflection, I mean, this is when the old guy in me is like, why? Does the value of having the exact line that the problem occurred on in the log outweigh? This can produce incorrect source information for functions that wrap slog. No kidding. For instance, if you define this function in my log, yeah. Yep. Yep. Why would you do that? That's totally stupid. Then slog will report the source code of my log, not Mango. A correct implementation will be to obtain the source code and pass it a new record. The info function for the package level is called wrapping. Demonstrates how to do this. Draft should be high. I think that's only if you add source. Oh, it's a handler option. You can leave it off. Oh, thank God, LBG. They're gonna immediately do the wrap thing. What slug? So, sometimes the handler will need to modify a record before passing it to another handler. A record contains a mixture of some public fields. Okay, so two things came out of that. One, you don't have to have, you have to do add source. LBG, thank you for that. Constant source of good data on my stream. This means that modifying a simple copy of a record to add attributes may have unexpected effects on the original. For modifying a record, use clone. Clone's a 1.21 thing. Yeah. Map.clone. Did they have yeah. See here, this here, they're using the new supported documentation for Golang, and the Go documentation site doesn't support it yet. This is a link. This is a link to the clone. Mm-hmm. And it's not seeing it because they don't support the most recent. It looks like they don't support it. Case components. Oh, hell yeah. Having the exact line in the logs, that's what I was making the case for that, right? I do think that it's useful. The question is whether the reflection cost to performance is worth it. And again, when we're talking about cloud native and everything's IO bound in a microservices architecture, and you got lots of pods, I I think that it's worth it. I think everyone cites the number one negative of cloud native is not knowing what's going on, and I think knowing the exact line number in the source code where it's going on is worth whatever milliseconds of reflection abstraction would be there, which is a lot, right? I mean, if you depending on what log level you're at. Now, the flip side of this, with having the different, now that we have log levels, right? We have a couple of scenarios that we can now support we couldn't before. For example, let's say that your application is misbehaving and you have to go to the logs, but you're not getting the logs you want. So you could, go in and do kubectl edit or whatever on a config map for that application. You could change the verbosity of the log level. You could turn up log leveling and make sure that propagates to your deployment. And then you could then see a higher amount of logs temporarily because the application, even though it would restart the pods, actually no, it wouldn't have to restart the pods there. It could just check your phone home for a config map whenever, however it does that. And then it could actually increase the amount of logging, and you could, and then all of that reflection hit to get the line of code that comes on. Hypothetically, I don't know, but hypothetically, that would only be that runtime cost would only be incurred when you turn the log leveling up. If you left the log leveling really low, then all of that reflection overhead would not hit. I'm guessing. A lot of that reflection overhead would not hit you. I don't know. This is where I want to look at the source code, because if the source code does not call a reflection API to find out, I mean, I think a reflection API has to be done like someplace after variable initialization at runtime, right? We might not be able to escape the reflection stuff. The reflection stuff is probably happening. It's probably happening at startup time and not runtime. I don't know. Either way, if the reflection stuff is happening at startup time, that means you get the cost once when the app starts, so that it knows what line level that particular log line is on, or which is fine, right? Because that's like a one-time hit. That's nothing. But if it has to do reflection for every log query, which come to think it would probably be stupid, because you don't need to re-reflect every time. Dynamic log in your Node.js microservice. If we set it runtime through API, yeah. Yeah, I now that I talk through it, it would be really stupid to have runtime reflection. But I mean like, not I mean log time. Let's call it log time. Log time reflection. Log time reflection. So the call to the function to do the logging does a reflection. That's totally stupid. Nobody would do that. So I didn't think through. I didn't think it through. When they say reflection, there's like a one-time hit for startup to do the reflection to see where everything is. They probably are populating some sort of table that shows where all that data is. Compile time or startup init. Reflection is not a compile time thing. I'm pretty sure. I could be wrong. I don't know. I from the JSON stuff, I know that hit does come at runtime, but it's only one time at runtime. I don't understand reflection enough to know. If you don't know what reflection is inspecting your code base in order so that your application has its own symbols of where the things are. And because that code is not going to change at runtime, now that I think through it, reflection has got to be a one-time hit at the start of the application. And that's nothing. That's like so minimal, you would definitely want that. In fact, now that I've thought through it, the first thing I would do in my slog is activate add source to all of my logger. Because I would want the line number. Hell yeah. I would want the line number. It would if it's a one-time hit for reflection at the startup of the application, then hell, that's totally worth it to me. Totally worth it at this point. I was kind of skeptical about that before, but talking through it, I'm pretty sure I would want that no matter what. Yeah. So, I mean, that really depends on me getting a better handle on how reflection works. But just by understanding how the application works in general, it would make no sense for reflection to hit uh, any time outside of, you know, when you run a program with reflection, when you're including the reflection library, it's got to cache all of the symbols and stuff from the currently running application at the beginning of the run, because that stuff is not going to change. I mean, there's anonymous functions and stuff like that, but dynamically allocated functions. But I mean, I've used the reflection API before. Actually, used it in Bonsai for the documentation output. Um, when you have an error and you want to say that is not the right type, and you can use reflect for that. And that's runtime though. That's runtime because that's a signature parameter coming in. It's an any, and then it uses reflection on it to see which one it is. So that's a runtime thing. I mean, that's like a function call time thing, whatever you want to call that. So, huh. Anyway, either way, it's more useful than it is slow. Couldn't the compiler and further reflection? Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Okay, so what I know of reflection when I was using it, um, I was using reflection as a way to persist my pagan rat packrat parser. Uh, it's go as a packrat parser syntax, and um, and it obviously would take an any in, and I would do type switching reflection in order to uh, sort of a regex kind of way to identify what rules were going to be applied, and only for the generation of the code originally. But then anyway, so that was when I ran into reflect would print out the anonymous function signature, and I was using it because I wanted to get the type, the name of the type. I was using the name of the type, and in the case of a function, the name of the function type, I was using that as an identifier. I was using that as a token in my packrat parser, which is another topic altogether. Um, and that reflection was runtime, like not at the beginning of startup time. It was like runtime, and then it would. But I remember types that were functions. I had to do some magic to get the name of the function. And if it was an anonymous function, the reflect would give you func, paren instead for the name. Um, so yeah. Anyway, do 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 do. Info. Damn, that's like a call. That's a struct. What? Wait, what? Okay, we're reading on. The arguments to the call are always evaluated. The arguments to log a call are always evaluated, even if the log event is discarded. Defer computation, if possible, defer computation so that it happens only if the value is actually logged. Oh shit, this is cool. Wow. That would compute a string unnecessarily, yes. The URL string method can be called discard if it gets discarded. Oh, right. So it's calling string on the thing. Interesting. And it's usually in the marshalling. String is from the text fmt marshaller interface. In case you don't know, it's one of the coolest things about Go. Actually, I will frequently. This is going to actually change the way I do things a lot of times. I by default a lot of times I will implement the text fmt marshaller as JSON because I don't like Go's syntax for objects when I'm printing them out to debug or whatever. And that could potentially become a problem here because it would be JSON within a JSON. I wonder what it would do on that. That's worth looking into. I'm glad I read that. The URL string method will be called even if the logger discards the log event. Instead, pass the URL directly. Yeah. So if you just pass the object, it'll infer, it'll call string on it if this log level actually gets called. That would imply to me that reflect is called at runtime and not startup time. If further line number somehow reflection is runtime. Yeah. The built-in text handler will call its string method, but only if the login event is enabled. This means that you have to implement a string method for your stuff. Almost everything does. Avoiding the call to string also preserves the structure of the underlying value. True. For example, JSON handler emits components of the parse URL as a JSON object. If you want to avoid eagerly paying the cost of the string call without causing the handler to potentially inspect the structure of the value, wrap the value in an FMP stringer implementation that hides its Marshall method. What? That's exactly what I was talking about. If you want to avoid eagerly paying the cost of the string call without causing the handler to potentially inspect the structure of the value, wrap the value in an FMP stringer implementation that hides its Marshall methods. And I don't want to get into the order that JSON marshalling happens. There's like 3 or 4 different interface implementations it looks for in order. There's text marshaller, there's the string function, and there's another one. There's a binary one too. You can also use a log value or interface to avoid unnecessary work in displaying log calls. Say you need to log some expense. This is really smart. Compute expensive value arg. Yeah, it's going to call the function. We don't want that. Even though this assigned as a stable, we want to offload. We want to lazy offload it. Compute expensive value to be called to avoid it. Define a value implementing a log value or. Oh, they just have something that defines the interface. Huh. Slog any value. E.arg. So this is this computation only happens when log value or hits. Notice they didn't use a pointer here because you don't need to. People unnecessarily use pointers all the time. Type expensive struct. It's also, if you don't have a pointer here, it makes it easier to use interface. And that's not because it's lowercase, but still. Type expensive struct in arg. So basically, same way you would make errors, except for instead of an error method, you would do a log value method. Damn, that's cool. Then use the value of the type in the logs. slog expensive arg. Yeah, I love it. This is my PegX. This is my rat. They're using this. I'm very happy. They used the same design consideration that I did for my packrat parser. They offloaded unnecessary expensive computation to after evaluation by putting that computation behind a struct. That's exactly how I do my packrat parser in Pagan. I love it. Okay, cool. Because then you can have all your syntax and evaluation of the types up front, which is expensive, but not nearly as expensive as it would be if everything was getting evaluated at the same time. Now compute expense. It's not exactly the same thing. It's similar. It's not exactly the same. Now compute expense. You know what else I noticed? They're using compound notation. Vimgo used to flag you as being a bad person for using compound notation. How many of you have had your editor yell at you because you didn't use key value pair here, and then you got a big ugly warning that says compound notation for instantiating structs is a bad thing because you don't know what the order is and they might change the order and it's an error waiting to happen? No. Whoever wrote that warning, no. Because sometimes I just want one arg like this and I get this nice happy notation here. Then an error check, get out of here. Yeah. Some of you have had that happen, yeah? Well, I'm here to tell you that the official slog uses that very thing, and that error would be thrown if you actually followed what they told you to do here. So I'm going to end my argument here. My argument is that That is totally acceptable, and in some cases preferable, as is here, because it makes a simpler notation. And I think you should be able to freely do that as much as you want. I do it all the time. Um, anyway, now compute expressive value will only be called when the line is enabled. The built-in handlers acquire a lock before calling I audit read or write. Oh, that's nice. Wow. They're doing what kind of lock are they doing? Oh, damn. User-defined handlers are responsible for their own locking. Oh, of course. Um, huh. It wraps just like log. Okay. Log handler handle. Kind of expect. Ugh. Make the function group slog attribute. Source key. Logger. Damn, this is cool. Logger equals s.log. Sorry, I can't really read this. If you're just listening, I'm looking at I'm looking at an example of wrapping in Playground, and it's pretty amazing. The fact that they offloaded all of the uh, runtime performance hit to whether or not that log level is being used is pretty worth reading about. Because if you get that wrong, your loggers are going to be unnecessarily incurring a bunch of extra heavy load. This is very cool. It's a great example. Periods after incomplete sentences in the short comments. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know about that, but yeah. So value any source equals value dot any dot, and I guess they're casting it too. That's weird. That's unnecessarily complicated code, but I understand why they're doing it. I guess it's necessarily complicated. Remove the directory from the resources file name. Yeah, the use of periods, remove time period. Yeah, that's always been a controversial thing. The style book that I have, what is it, Brown? It says that even in bulleted points, you should put periods after there when they don't make grammatical sense. And I'm like, what? So yeah, that there I can actually read you from. This is my writing style guide, the Greg Reference Manual. There's lots of style guides for writing English, but yeah, I'm pretty sure that's where that comes from. A lot of people, it's do you. So another one is do you capitalize a bullet point, right? What was it? If you're a non-English speaker and you want to do English professionally, I think this is the best reference manual for you. It's called the Greg's Reference Manual. And this covers, here, let me read it to you. I know you didn't want this, but a lot of you are probably not English speakers. A lot of my community are not native English speakers. So I'm going to go ahead and read it. It says mastering the art of good business writing. So, so this is not, there, how many are there? There's like so many different style manuals out there for use the English language, and Greg's is, as it says here, an indispensable guide to style, grammar, usage, and formatting. For over 50 years, the Greg's Reference Manual has been recognized as the leader in style manual for anyone seeking to master the on-the-job standards of current business writing. And I personally find coding comments to qualify as business writing. Whether you're an experienced professional, by the way, straight aced all of my business writing courses in college. Whether you are an experienced professional or someone preparing to enter the business world, the Greg Reference Manual is your indispensable guide to business writing. You weren't sure what book to look for? Yeah, this is for business writing, right? Now, the reason I keep saying that is because they make decisions based on the clarity and ease of reading and parsing with your eyes as you're scanning things. that would get you denied if you were writing a novel and you were going to submit it, right? And I know that because my ex-wife wrote a novel and submitted it, and I had to do a lot of proofing on that. So, yeah. Here's what some people are saying. The Greg Reference Manual is the very best style, grammar, usage, formatting reference available for business professionals, updated frequently to incorporate current technology. This single source reference is an invaluable resource for today's continually changing, fast-paced business. This includes citations and URLs and all of that. I actually bought it because I was working on the Knowledge Exchange Grid, which, as you guys know, some of you, it has proofreader marks in it too. I don't use proofreader marks. I probably should learn those. I am a closet English major. I was a Russian major, but I actually really, really love English. If I could do nothing but tech writing my whole life, I probably would do it. It doesn't pay very much though. It tells you when to use first person, second person, what kind of tense to use, and when it comes to bulleted things, that's somebody mentioned that the annoyance of the periods at the end of the comments here. I believe that's where those are coming from. If I remember right, bulleted lists in Greg's style, if it's significant length, and that remove time is not significant length, but if it's of a significant length, you should put a period at the end, and it doesn't make any sense grammatically. And if you go back and look some of my other stuff, my earlier stuff, you'll see me trying another style where you continue the sentence, then you put a comma, continue the sentence, another comma, and in the last sentence you have a dot, and you put and you put semicolons in there and stuff. It's very hard to read that. Very, very hard to read it. But grammatically, that particular style says that bullets are not a thing. They're just in there, and you should use their same grammatical rules for everything else. And that is not the case for... It's very, very hard to read that. And so the Greg Reference Manual has taken some liberties with that. Okay, so here we go some more. I mean, that's it. That is the main library there. Let's go back. Lightweight, configurable, extensible. GUKit. What? What is this? What is GUKit? Oh, look at it. It makes them all colored. They added colors. Apparently, there's a thing called GUKit. They added fancy colors. Coding library written in Golang. Simple, directly available without configuration. Support common log levels. I think I don't think this is compatible. I think this is one of the log libraries that's been around forever. You know what I mean? Support for custom built-in log message handlers. Oh yeah, no. This is one of the many log libraries that probably informed the creation. Oh, look at they got to read me in Chinese. Nice. Yeah, look at that. slog.Info F. No. Don't use this. Don't. I mean, it's really cool, but don't use it. No, don't use it because it's not slog. It looks like it wanted to be slog. Oh, damn. They have templating even. Yeah, no way, man. Don't use template parsing for logging. Oh, my God. That just gave me the shivers. No. They probably have templating. Okay, so the next thing we need to do is read the source code, which I'm not going to do because I got to go. I only have a couple hours left to get my workday done. And so I'm going to go ahead and end the stream here. This was a pretty fun introduction to slog. If you didn't take anything else away, then maybe you took away that you want to go look at it and make your own decisions. Several things have happened to me today, and I'm going to just summarize. One of them is I've been convinced of using functional options if there's no need for persistence and there is a high need for performance. So I have changed my tune on that a little bit because I believe this is one of those actual valid cases for that. Secondly, we saw a really good example of a package that has undergone several years of patient development and feedback from the community, which I think is really amazing. I got nothing but praise for the slog team for what they have done. I've wanted to propose several things to the Go community, and I've never done it because I'm just too impatient. I'm too impatient. I want things my way. If people don't agree with me, they can go, jump off a lake. And I got to say that is that's a big thing. Um, so that's that. What else have I got? I really love the deferred the use of structs in order to defer execution of the log entry. That was remarkably cool. And even though you're going to be taking a hit to check whether that log level is enabled every time that slog.Info line hits, right? No way around that. But even though you have that, you're not going to incur the hit you would have to actually calculate the log value, which is really, really, really cool, because that means if you wanted to have a very high level of debugging logging, you could put a complicated calculation if you want and offload that into its own log value method interface implementation. So that is fantastic. Um, the ability to log different levels, I think, is going to be pretty core and key. I am actually committed to putting slog into my regular coding. I will be using slog for everything from now on, and I'll be tripping over myself quite a bit. Most of my logging is going to be of this type because it's just easier to write. And to be fair, at first I was somewhat disappointed that the team kept functional arguments and also the offset arguments like here that are simpler to read. And now I actually think that that's good, because here's let me give you a use case for this. So I'm writing code, and right now I'm doing testing, and I want to do my print log f like I always do. I actually have a macro for it, and I just want to because printing, according to Stack Exchange and a number of other surveys, using a print statement is still the number one way to do debugging. Period. And a log line in testing is just it's just a glorified print statement. So I regularly will be putting these things in my code just to see to debug a problem that I'm getting, see if it made it to the line or whatever. And the thing I like about this is here's how the workflow would go. I need some visibility into a thing. It needs to be right here. I kind of zoom in on that. I put in slog.Info, and I have it be my variable, right here. And then I run my tests, I figure it out, and then I have a decision to make. And in the old days, I used to just go comment it out, and then I would strip out all the commented lines, right? But these days, I might be able to go in there and go, is this a place I want to keep this thing? Maybe I want to keep my log in here. And then just turn the info level off, right? So one of the ways that slog is going to impact the way I write code is it's going to cause me, when I'm doing my normal debugging with print statements, to use that moment and to capitalize on that moment and to put a log statement there that is at a log level that's so high that I would never actually use in any code, but that could potentially help somebody else along the road down after me, including me when I forget my code, right? So I can see slog potentially, until I run into a problem with this. I'm always weary of unnecessary logging. It's just something that I've been. It can overly complicate the code. But another thing that logging can do, as the argument is not a function, returns an attribute and passes the attribute as the argument. Yes. Oh no, when I say functional arguments, what I mean is, that's not a cast. I don't think it's a cast. It's actually it actually is a function call. So that's not a functional argument. I've heard people call those functional arguments because they are functions. slog.int is a function, right? Did I get that wrong? Before we leave this, let's make sure I got that right. I would hate to get that wrong. When I say functional arguments, they are arguments that are function calls. This here, slog.int count3 returns is a function that returns a value, and the value is what gets passed into the function. I think I see what you're saying. So I think like in Haskell, you would actually pass the function. The function would be called from within the body of the caller, right? Did I get that right? Is everybody happy with that definition? Yes, this is a function. And maybe I'm calling it, maybe I'm saying it wrong, but it's definitely a function. Whether that's a functional argument or not, I don't know. It's not a first-class function that gets called later on after the execution. Anyway, so I'm super happy with this. My takeaway is going to be that I am going to be putting a lot more logging into my code for better or worse. And most of my code, to be fair, it's not highly dependent on the performance would not be impacted by putting logs in there. It's going to take a certain amount of effort for me to leave that in there. I actually think that by putting the logs in there, if you include a useful message in there, I mean, obviously you can overdo this, but if you might be able to get away with some of those inline comments that you could have had instead of having an inline comment. Obviously, you're going to have inline comments to explain complicated algorithms, things like that. But but you might be able to get away with a log statement instead of an inline comment, right? And then you get observability and traceability as well as that later on when you want to turn that on. So I'm building everything with 1.21 these days, and I have the freedom to do that. A lot of people don't. Some people are still stuck on 1.13 because of dependencies in libraries that haven't updated. I think it's really important that we note that you cannot use this in any code base where any dependency within the code is on 1.13, right? So if you are requiring, did I get that right? Please check me on that. If you have a dependency on a library that, no, I think I might have that wrong. I think I have that wrong. I do have that wrong. Because when it's 1.13, if something has a dependency on 1.13, that doesn't prevent you from using a 1.21 thing. So your package can still be 1.21 or greater. It just means that if somebody were compiling something that were under 1.21, they wouldn't be able to do it unless they upped their compiler to 1.20. So that should not, okay, I take it all back. I talked myself through that one too. So you should be able to use this any place you're compiling your code with 1.21. So if you've chosen to compile 1.21, the backward compatibility promise keeps anything, including really old code, working. Of course, now that I think about it, it seems rather obvious. So you should be able to compile it and have no problem. So have fun with slog, and let me know if you run into any preferences here. Please feel free to leave comments in the thing down here, and I'll try to get to them. If you think I'm off my rocker, and I really hope you made it to the end of the video. If you heard me like yelling about functional parameters and calling people idiots because they use them, well, by the end of the video, I've seen the light. So maybe there is some future for whatever those things are called. I've been calling it functional arguments. Bye, everybody. All right, so that's the end of that YouTube thing. Wait, why isn't it stopping?